That was our East-West Music Ensemble mesmerizing us with their sound. And Caitlin, we had a lot to talk about today, but I just want to read a quick update on emergency spending by the City Office of Controller John Liu, who has said that, the Department of Housing, Preservation and Development was just given an emergency procurement approval by the Controller's Office, John Liu, up to $500 million in spending for heat, hot water, and repairs for residents that have been damaged by Sandy. And this request has been approved on November 17th, and this will be coordinated with the recently announced New York City Rapid Repairs Program, and the city is expected to be reimbursed for the expenditure, from the federal government. So let's see what happens at this point of time. But, there was so much information given out. This is a call for action show. And
yeah, I think my biggest takeaway was the number of volunteers that are still needed. I think several of the organizations made the point that there's a lot of work left.
Absolutely.
And there are people who still are digging out their homes. And that was really surprising to me to hear that the volunteers have faded so much, considering how many people originally were jumping to go.
Right.
So hopefully we'll have some people go out. And I know I'm going to look for opportunities too.
Absolutely. This is a great way to help, especially in the holiday season when there are some people who can't celebrate because there's so much of, it's a challenging time for them. So volunteerism, I think, is the best way to reach out, be a good Samaritan, and help them out. Again, there are food banks that you need.
Yeah, it's not just volunteering time; it's resources too. It sounds like they're still in pretty serious need of resources.
And it's winter's right here, so the blankets, and we need some cleaning supplies.
I can't imagine going through that nor'easter, and for the people who had no heat, let alone no home. I can't even imagine. And we're very fortunate right now that we're having good weather, but that's going to turn around at some point, and we're going to need to make sure everyone's okay.
And we know that the mortgages, the people have to make some very tough financial choices at this point of time. Should they get their repairs done? Should they pay their mortgage payments? What's their priority at this point of time? If they don't pay their mortgage, they might hit a foreclosure. So there are a lot of issues that, very challenging times for a lot of people. So the best we can do is to do a show like this, QPTV
bring
cares,
some awareness
and bring some awareness and create that platform where people can reach out and help with the resources that have been given and the resources that we've been talking about today, whether it's the American Red Cross or Salvation Army or the Rockaway, Revitalization Corporation. You talk to Senator Malcolm Smith as well.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting to talk to a senator when we think of the political system as something that takes so much time to get things done.
Right.
And to know that there are individual politicians who just went out and offered up their car, their water, I think that's really great to hear. And hopefully we're seeing some big decisions have to be made very quickly, and so maybe that's a new change, and on a broader scale to see that government's able to make some decisions, and just as individuals are going to be able to do that as well.
Right, even then State Senator James Sander-elect, he was right in the eye of the storm, and he went through his own personal trauma at that point of time. So a lot of elected officials have gone through their own grief, and so they know what it is when they reach out.
It's been a bit of an equalizer. We've seen people who had a lot lose a lot. We saw people who didn't have what people would say is much, but they lost a lot in comparison to what they had, and I think it's that's part of what makes New York City great, is we do kind of all come together and we don't take no for an answer.
Absolutely.
So we'll see that.
And at this point of time, I think social media plays a very critical role. You can promote a lot through social media.
I was on Twitter the entire storm, and everything that was happening, every picture, I wanted to be there, and I felt like it was a lifeline. And I know that a lot of people have still been able to reach out. We had people contact us tonight using social media, and hopefully those tools, those modern tools, are going to help us to do some better storm relief in the future. And I know that's something that Mike Bloomberg discussed this morning at his press conference, was they do have to change some of the communication, some of the ways that these things are handled and the way that they get information out. And there's new technology we might as well maximize.
Right, absolutely. And the storms are going to become a new normal very soon.
That's what so many scientists are saying now.
We need to prepare, plan for these kind of disasters, so we don't be, I'm sure we're not going to be hit by, hopefully not, by a storm like Hurricane Sandy dimension, but we need to be prepared.
Well, and that extra cost now in terms of whether it's raising your home or getting new material that's stronger, that that it pays off later when you get through the storm. I have a friend who was telling me that her house was totaled in Irene.
Right.
So they rebuilt, and they rebuilt higher and stronger, and she said this time her whole neighborhood was wiped out, but her house was the only one that made it through. Right. So hopefully we'll just be the New York that we are and
Absolutely.
be a little bit more resilient.
Well, you know, in this despair, we've seen some stories of heroism and generosity.
Absolutely.
And we talked to the Turkish Council as well. They're reaching out through their kids and, you know, through food banks and hot soup, you know, kitchens. So there's a lot you can see that people do reach out and help and touch people's lives and make a positive difference. And that's what this show is all about. QPTV Cares, Sandy Storm Relief and Recovery. And now let's go for our next program that's coming up, QPTV Cares, Sandy Storm Business Recovery. That's so very important with a lot of businesses that have been dislocated, displaced because of Sandy. This special program is all about business recovery because QPTV cares. I'm Renee Lobo. And
I'm Caitlin Monty. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and we're going to end it with a little bit more of the music that's been soothing us tonight. We know music's a very powerful tool, and we hope you've been able to use some to get through the storm. So back to our band. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a great night.
Thank you too. Good night.